There's a peculiar habit that binds us across centuries, a quiet tremor in the human heart that beats to the rhythm of what if? What if tomorrow doesn't go as planned? What if everything changes before I'm ready? We pace through today, haunted by the ghost of a day that hasn't arrived. It's as if the mind is a storyteller that refuses to stay in the present, spinning fables about storms that may never come. From the shepherd who fears the next drought to the student dreading an exam weeks away, the same shadow follows us, anticipation of an unwritten future. The ancient Stoics noticed this too, long before psychology gave it a name. They saw how fear of tomorrow steals peace from today. Stoicism, born in the colonnades of ancient Athens, was never meant to be just a philosophy of marble statues and dusty scrolls. It was a way of walking through chaos with calm eyes. The Stoics taught that while we live in an unpredictable world, the mind can become a kind of inner fortress, not untouched by storms, but unshaken by them. Epictetus once reminded his students, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." For them, philosophy wasn't an escape from life, but a compass through it. They studied the art of staying steady, not because they were indifferent, but because they had learned that serenity is not found in control, but in clarity. Yet the question lingers like a candle in the dark. Why, despite all our wisdom, do we still stand at the edge of each new day with trembling hands? Why does the mind, knowing all it knows, still drift toward what isn't yet real? Perhaps this is the question that both ancient Stoics and modern thinkers must face together. If the future is forever beyond our grasp, how can we finally stop living in its shadow? If this reflection on our restless minds and the timeless calm of the Stoics stirred something in you, don't let the thought pass like a cloud. Hold on to it. Hit subscribe to keep walking this path of insight together. Like if you believe we can all learn to live a little more wisely in the present, and comment with your own thoughts about how you wrestle with tomorrow's worries. Let's turn these ancient echoes into a living conversation, one mindful click at a time. Number 1. Fear of the unknown and unforeseen events. It begins quietly, a twinge in the chest, a restless thought in the middle of the night. You start thinking about what might go wrong tomorrow, next week, or even years from now. That simple what if grows roots, and before long, you're living in a storm that hasn't even started. The Stoics understood this strange ache of the human mind. They lived in a world far less predictable than ours. Empires rose and fell overnight, yet they trained themselves to walk through uncertainty with calm composure. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." To him, fear was a magician's illusion. It made the unreal seem real. The question, then, is not why uncertainty exists, but why we allow it to rule us long before it arrives. Think of the fisherman who stares at a silent sea, already mourning the storm that hasn't come. Or the parent who watches a sleeping child, haunted by future dangers that may never happen. Expectation is a kind of private theater where we act out tragedies that life itself has yet to write. The Stoics saw this not as weakness but as misplaced imagination. They believed the mind could be an artist, one that paints either serenity or suffering, depending on what it chooses to see. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, advised himself, "Do not disturb yourself by thinking of the whole of your life. Do not let your imagination run ahead." In other words, life's script is written moment by moment, not all at once. Modern psychology would call it anxiety, that subtle hum beneath the surface of daily life. But long before the word existed, the Stoics named it for what it was, the burden of anticipating pain before it happens. They believed anticipation steals strength from the present, leaving us exhausted for battles that may never be fought. Epictetus urged his students to rehearse calmness, not catastrophe. He taught them to meet the future not as prophets of doom, but as participants in a play they hadn't yet read the final act of. To the Stoics, the future wasn't a threat, it was simply unwritten. The more we try to preview it, the more we miss the scene we're actually in. And so, here we are, modern souls with ancient fears, armed with more information than ever, yet still uneasy about what we cannot see. The Stoics would likely smile at our obsession with prediction, our endless scrolling through tomorrow's headlines. They would remind us that life is not a rehearsal for the next scene, it is the scene itself. Perhaps that is where the heart of this question lies. If the future has not yet arrived, why do we let it steal today's breath? Maybe it's not the unknown we fear, but our own unwillingness to live fully in the known. The curtain hasn't fallen yet, and that's exactly where our story begins. Number 2. Conditioning our happiness on future events. There's a moment in every person's life when they whisper to themselves, "I'll be happy when I get the job, when I find love, when the world finally slows down." But the Stoics would have raised an eyebrow at such bargains. To them, postponing happiness was like refusing to drink water until it rains tomorrow. Life, they believed, doesn't promise us clear skies, only the chance to walk through the weather with grace. In ancient Rome, people built fortunes, temples, and reputations, only to lose them overnight to war or whim. Yet Stoic philosophers, standing amid the ruins, still managed to smile. They saw joy not as a distant prize, but as something to be found in the quiet discipline of the present. We moderns are no different from those Romans. We trade our peace for the illusion of someday. We scroll, save, plan, and worry, conditioning our contentment on things still unborn. Seneca warned against this trap when he wrote, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." He wasn't telling people to ignore the future, but to stop holding their breath for it. Because every time we say, "I'll feel better once," we're building a cage made of conditions. The Stoics believed that happiness isn't granted by the future. It's sculpted by how we think in this very hour. Picture a farmer watching his crops under a heavy sky. He hopes for rain, yes, but he doesn't stand still waiting for it. He sharpens his tools, tends the soil, trusts the rhythm of the seasons. The Stoics lived the same way, aware that the future may never unfold as planned, yet unwilling to hand over their present to anxiety. They didn't chase the perfect moment, they cultivated it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "Confine yourself to the present, not as an order, but as an act of compassion toward oneself, a way of saying, 'This is enough right now.'" In the end, the Stoics remind us that life is already happening, right where we stand. Happiness does not hide behind the horizon of tomorrow. It breathes in the small certainties of today, in the work of our hands, the steadiness of our thoughts, and the quiet acceptance that this moment, imperfect as it may be, is the only one that truly belongs to us. Number 3. Getting caught in a cycle of negative thoughts and anxiety. It often starts with a single thought, a whisper of "what if? What if I fail? What if something goes wrong?" And before long, that whisper becomes a storm. We replay possibilities that haven't happened, building entire tragedies in our heads. The Stoics saw this centuries ago. They called it the mind's tendency to suffer twice, once in imagination, and again if the thing actually happens. Seneca wrote, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." To the Stoics, fear of the future was like shadowboxing with ghosts. We exhaust ourselves fighting illusions. The tragedy is not that we imagine bad things, but that we let those images steal the calm that's already ours. There's an old Greek story about a sailor who couldn't sleep before setting out to sea. He imagined the waves swallowing his ship, the wind tearing his sails, the sky turning black. Yet when morning came, the ocean was calm and bright. The Stoics would have smiled at this tale, not to mock his fear, but to show how the mind invents storms to fill a silent sky. Marcus Aurelius advised himself, "Today I escaped from anxiety." Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. The point wasn't to deny danger, but to recognize how much of it we create ourselves, long before the world does. Modern psychology might describe this as a loop, a feedback cycle between thoughts, emotions, and the body. The Stoics simply called it habit. They believed that anxious thought, repeated often enough, becomes a reflex, a mental muscle that flexes without permission. Their remedy wasn't denial, but retraining. They practiced what Epictetus called premeditatio malorum, calmly picturing possible misfortunes, not to invite them, but to dull their sting. Like a soldier training in the rain so the real storm won't shake him, they rehearsed composure. The mind, they taught, can learn peace the same way it learns fear, through repetition. In the end, the Stoics understood something profoundly human, that our thoughts can become both our prison and our escape. To them, freedom wasn't found in running from anxiety, but in standing still long enough to see it for what it is, an echo, not an oracle. When we catch ourselves spinning through the same anxious stories, perhaps the Stoic lesson is simply this: to pause, breathe, and remember that the future is not yet written, and neither is our suffering. Number 4. Social and family pressures. We live inside small orbits of expectation, family stories, neighborhood standards, the quiet ledger of favors and debts that follow from being part of a group. Those pressures arrive like weather, sometimes gentle, sometimes a storm that pushes us off course. The Stoics never dismissed the weight of these ties. In fact, they began from them. The idea of oikeiosis, the natural widening of concern from self to family to community, explains why the approval or disappointment of loved ones can feel like destiny. Stoic thinkers saw social bonds as part of what makes life meaningful, and that's why losing face or failing a family role hurts so deeply. Often the worry isn't only about what will happen, but what others will say when it does. Reputation, marriage choices, career paths, these become scripts we feel obliged to perform, even when the part doesn't fit. The Stoics drew a line between acting from habit and acting from principle. Marcus Aurelius urged himself to live rightly rather than theatrically. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. That counsel isn't a refusal of family duty. It's a call to ground our responses in integrity, so the play we're in is honest rather than anxious. Think of the daughter in a village who is told her future is already mapped. Marry well, run the shop, keep the household peace. The fear creeps in not because tomorrow is dangerous, but because her life story seems already written by others. Stoics recommended a different posture, not rebellion for its own sake, but a measured stance that preserves affection while testing which parts of the script reflect your values. They used perspective like a lamp in the dark, remembering how short a life is, how shifting fortunes are, to soften the grip of social expectation and let choice return to the present moment. In practice, that meant small, steady acts, clear speech with loved ones, doing one duty well, and keeping a private ledger of intentions so your public role doesn't eat your private life. Epictetus urged people to live what they taught. Don't merely learn virtue, show it in how you answer the phone, how you sit at the table, how you return a favor. By turning obligations into actions that align with one's principles, social pressure loses its power to create a future of constant dread. Live each scene with courage and care, and you will find that the future, whatever shape it takes, arrives to a person already prepared. Number 5. Lack of clear planning. An empty map makes every journey feel like a cliff edge. When tomorrow is vague and our goals are clouded, the mind fills the blanks with worst-case trailers, disasters, missed chances, shame. That nameless unease is often less about the future itself and more about how little we've sketched out of it. Without a simple plan, no matter how rough we're left to drift between urgent distractions and grand, unfocused wishes. The result is a constant background hum of worry that makes even ordinary choices feel like high-stakes gambles. The Stoics prized a kind of practical wisdom for Onesimus that is deeply relevant here. They taught that reason isn't only for lofty reflections, it's for daily ordering, assigning time, setting small aims, and arranging priorities so life doesn't sweep you along. Epictetus captured this bluntly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That isn't sloganizing control. It's an invitation to translate vague hopes into step-by-step habits, a short morning plan, a weekly list, a rehearsal of the next conversation. Planning, for the Stoics, was less a promise about outcomes than a way to steady the present. Stories always make the point clearer. Imagine two farmers facing the same uncertain season. One sketches a simple plan: store grain, mend fences, stagger planting, and sleeps easier. The other waits for perfect signs and frets each night. The Stoics would point to the first farmer and call his work a practice of character. They favored measured foresight over frantic prophecy, not endless forecasting, but the slow accumulation of small preparation. In short, worry from vague tomorrows often melts when we bring a little order to our days. Stoic thinking teaches that calm grows from clear steps. Name a next task, rehearse it briefly, and act. By turning long-term hopes into short-term duties, we find momentum and dignity in living, and the future stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a sequence we are ready to walk through. As Seneca reminds us, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it, and a few deliberate plans reclaim that time. Number 6. The influence of the media and negative news. Imagine waking up to a storm of notifications, floods, wars, economic crashes, celebrity scandals. Each headline is designed to grab your attention, and soon your mind is racing with what-ifs. The Stoics noticed a similar phenomenon long before screens existed. Seneca once warned that we are often frightened not by what is happening, but by what we imagine might happen. In other words, our imagination, fueled by external chatter, can magnify fear far beyond reality. Think of a small spark blown by a strong wind into an imagined inferno. That's how media magnifies anxiety. A tiny event in reality becomes a full-blown catastrophe in our minds. Consider the tale of an old fisherman from Sicily who every night worried a storm would capsize his boat. Day after day, he prepared for it, losing sleep and appetite. Yet, the storm never came. Epictetus would remind him, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But beyond just reaction, Stoicism offers a subtler insight. The mind tends to rehearse disasters as though they are scripts in a play. The fisherman's rehearsals didn't prevent a storm, they only robbed him of present joy. Sometimes, worrying is not about controlling the future, but about miscasting the imagination in a tragedy where none exists. Modern life, with its constant alerts and updates, is like living inside a dark theater where the play never ends. Every act is a new threat: inflation, health scares, geopolitical tension. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." The drama is not written in the world. It is in the lens we choose to see it through. Imagine a mother fretting endlessly about her child's exam, or a farmer fearing an invisible blight. In both cases, the script exists more in the mind than in reality. The Stoics urge us to recognize the theater, but also to step back into the sunlight. Picture a vast, silent lake at dawn. The world outside may roar with headlines and whispers, yet the lake does not quake. Life's uncertainties can feel like epic battles with dragons, but as Seneca advised, he suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary. By reframing our perspective, slowing the drumbeat of imagined disasters, and grounding ourselves in the rhythm of daily life, the cinematic storm can become a background score instead of the main plot. The Stoics teach not just endurance but presence, the art of inhabiting the scene of life without letting imagined horrors steal the spotlight. Number 7. Past bitter experiences. Imagine a young baker in a small town who once poured his heart into a new recipe, only to have it burn in the oven. The memory haunted him. Every time he considered trying something new, his mind replayed that bitter failure like a grim movie scene. The Stoics understood how the past can anchor us in fear of what hasn't happened yet. Seneca reflected, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." Past pains, stored vividly in memory, can create an invisible shadow over the future, coloring possibilities with doubt and hesitation. Even decades later, the baker would flinch at a chance to innovate. But the Stoics teach that the past is not a prophecy, it is a teacher. Marcus Aurelius once noted, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Each burned loaf, each failed attempt, was not a warning to stop but a stepping stone in disguise. The past gains its weight only when we treat it as the final chapter rather than a draft for tomorrow. Our minds are natural storytellers. They edit and dramatize past disappointments until every new challenge feels like déjà vu of failure. A young woman avoiding public speaking after a humiliating childhood recital experiences the same trap the past dictates the present, convincing her that history will repeat itself. But, as Epictetus observed, it's not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them. Rewriting our internal narrative allows us to turn echoes of old pain into quiet guides rather than relentless harbingers of doom. In the end, the past cannot truly reach forward. It only lingers if we let it. Think of a traveler burdened with heavy stones from every road he ever walked until he pauses, examines each stone, and realizes some can be left behind. Stoic insight is not about erasing memory, but about choosing which shadows to follow. By learning to treat bitter experiences as teachers rather than jailers, we step into the future lighter, our imagination no longer chained to ghosts, ready to face the unknown with clarity and courage. For those of you who have stayed with me until the last word, I want to leave you with this. Life will always present shadows of fear, memories of pain, headlines that scream, and imagination that spins its own stories. Yet, as we have seen through the wisdom of the Stoics, these shadows do not have to become our masters. By facing our past without letting it dictate our future, by observing our fears without surrendering to them, we discover a kind of freedom that is quiet, steady, and profoundly human. You've traveled this path with me, and now, perhaps more than ever, you can step forward knowing that the story of tomorrow is not written yet, and you are fully capable of giving it a richer, lighter, and braver script.